Totally Football Show. Today, Premier League. Forest fired. It's hello to Ange in Nottingham, but will it be good afternoon? Also, a road to the World Cup, parties in Belgrade as Tommy T's side take off in a Serbia smashing, and Norwegian good, how Haaland and co rolled over Moldova. All that plus Manchester Derby and sundry other things in this Totally Football Show. Thursday the 11th of September, the records say. We're Duncan Alexander. Hi, Duncan.
Hello, James.
Good morning to you. Good morning to you, Benji Lanyado.
Hey, Jimbo.
That's right, listener. He is the CEO of Pixar.
Thank you.
And on our big screen, Adrian Clarke.
Hello, team. Hello, everybody.
Wow. Listener, you join us to start the podcast, but we've been chatting already. Among the revelations are the fact that behind Adrian on his wall, and if you're watching on video, you can maybe get a glimpse of this, not only an Adrian Clarke jersey from his Arsenal days. Oh, he's done it. Adrian, what is that we're looking at?
It's a gigantic team photo that Arsenal commissioned when they moved to Emirates Stadium. Every player that ever played for Arsenal at Highbury is on this giant team photo, which features a lot of players, but it's beautifully done because it starts in black and white and it ends in colour. And I am very proud to be on it, even though I can barely see it. It's so small, the image of myself, that I can barely see it even with my glasses on. But I'm there.
Duncan revealed that he used to be a stand-up comedian.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I used to do some stand-up.
Really?
Back in the day. Yeah.
Why'd you give it up, Duncan?
Because
what was it like?
It's fun, yeah. If you
Was it
enjoy,
fun?
Well, if you enjoy looking at, quite stony-faced people in the upstairs rooms at pubs, then it's the life for you.
How big did you get? What was your biggest gig?
I supported someone in Clapham once with, I think the audience was about 120. Something.
Right.
So, yeah, no, it was fun. It was just like to kind of basically get to make it a thing. You have to really commit, and I would have had to not watch as much football, and that would be very painful.
Unless you made football your subject matter. Oh, wait. That's what you did.
Well,
and then you really got paid. A lot for us to talk about today, Benji, because your West Ham only went and got poor old Nuno Espirito Santo fired.
Yeah, well,
Losing at home to West Ham is a sackable offence.
Yeah, quite right. But come on, he got himself fired.
He got himself fired. All right, well, we've got that to discuss. We've got England. We've got crazy Norway.
England.
There you go. And other things too, as the Premier League returns this Saturday lunchtime. We're going to begin, though, with events Monday midnight in Nottingham. Callum Wilson capping off a 3-0 win for West Ham away at Nottingham Forest. What seems like ages ago, back in round 3. Well done, Callum Wilson. There was no way that anyone else was going to score that goal. But that was the last game in charge for Nuno Espirito Santo, because this Monday, just after midnight, the word came that he had been fired as Nottingham Forest manager. And then shortly after dawn on Tuesday, the equally gobsmacking revelation that fun-loving Ange Postecoglou would be the new manager. It's a hiring that supposedly Nuno himself saw coming, but has surprised many others. Postecoglou was Tottenham's Europa League hero, of course, but also the man whose Lord Cardigan-esque commitment to all-out attack is very much the antithesis of what Forest have been under Nuno, and also came last season pretty close to getting Spurs relegated. We'll talk a little bit about the background to this very shortly. I know, Benji, you're very pro-Marianakis, from one fat cat CEO to another.
That's not fair, but okay.
But what do the Forest fans think about all of this? Fortunately, we're joined by one now. It's Matt Davies of the Forest Focus podcast. Matt, what do the Forest fans think about all this?
Oh, it's mad, isn't it? It's one of the strangest sackings that you can think of in a way, because it's not really football related, is it? I mean, we had a great season. I know we fell off at the end of the last campaign, but we should be going into this season really optimistic in Europe. Good signings made. Obviously, that's a factor in it behind the scenes with Nuno and Edu. And yeah, it's pretty crazy. Nuno's beloved, but I think he sort of burnt a few bridges in a sense with all the press conference stuff. And hasn't gone down overly well, but I'm starting to get cautiously optimistic. Maybe it's just me spinning a narrative in my own head about it, but I think there's things to like about him. It is quite a departure, but not as much a departure as people are saying, I think, and maybe we'll get into that. But yeah, it's been, even by Forest standards, a head-spinning couple of days.
The figures showed that they're pretty much at opposite ends of the tactical spectrum. Certainly last season, Nottingham Forest and Spurs under Ange Postecoglou. Are you anticipating him changing his approach then? And if he doesn't, what do you think the Forest fans will feel?
Last season, yeah, certainly. I think I lifted a graphic from The Athletic for our podcast to show last season how wildly different they were. This season, interestingly, Forest possession stats are some of the best in the league, or highest in the league. Their pressing stats are the highest in the league. So whether Nuno wanted to do that or whether he was made to do that in the first 3 games, and through pre-season, we saw them sort of working towards what is something akin to Ange ball in a sense. So I think with the players as well that we've got, that they're really good players that he can work with. I think the question mark is, are we going to see the Chelsea high line, it is who we are, mate kind of stuff? And I think he'd be foolish if he does that. But with so many games coming up, we've got 7 games before the next international break. I don't think he can do that. I think we'll see I hope we'll see gradual evolution and nothing, jarringly mental at Arsenal. I guess it remains to be seen, though.
Cautiously optimistic seems to be the feeling from you, at least, Matt. On the subject of Nuno, so many good times under the Portuguese boss. There was that fall off towards the end of last season when what seemed like a very probable Champions League place kind of disappeared up on a very poor run of results. The start of this season's not been great. There's been all the kind of passive aggressivity in the press conferences and that. Does he leave with his relationship with Forest fans tarnished by all of that, or will he forever be a legend?
I hope he's forever a legend. I hope it's not tarnished. It's a really unfortunate way it ended. But look at what he did for us. We're the only Premier League team to ever double our points tally season on season. He came in and it was a mess. We were struggling in the table. We were very fortunate at how bad the promoted teams were and when we got a points deduction. And he really took things forward. If we flash back to when Steve Cooper was sacked, people didn't really want Nuno, particularly. He come from Saudi Arabia. His reputation was at a pretty low ebb, and there was talk of, well, he's lucky to get a Premier League job, and there's sort of a little bit of that with Ange, and it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. But Nuno has done an unbelievable job. There was a lot of talk of him being our second best ever manager recently, behind Brian Clough, obviously. So no, I hope he's forever a legend. His achievements are phenomenal, and certainly the last 3 months or whatever shouldn't cloud what he did for us.
Matt, one question about Ange coming in. We talked about the tactical differences in his approach, but are there players, do you think, that will actually benefit from his arrival? That's a question from Ed Bellaby.
Yeah, I think there's players who will benefit and there's players who will potentially certainly suffer or might suffer. I mean, you look at Elliot Anderson, who is an unbelievable footballer, and it feels like everyone else is catching up to what we kind of felt about him a few months ago of how good he is. He and Morgan Gibbs-White should link up really well together. I think Callum Hudson-Odoi might really enjoy it. We don't know what Douglas Luiz is going to be like, but he feels like someone who could flourish under Ange Postecoglou. Zinchenko's an interesting signing. If he plays inverted fullbacks and things like that, Zinchenko could fit really well. And Murillo looks like, if you watch Murillo, he wants to go on 50-yard runs and ping 60-yard balls and shoot from 40 yards and all that kind of stuff. So if Ange says, go out there and express yourself to these guys, then I think it could be really fun for them, definitely.
Indeed. All right, well, listen, Matt, it all begins Saturday lunchtime with a trip to Arsenal, where you've got a terrible record. Best of luck for that and the rest of the season, and, of course, the Forest Focus podcast with your cohort, Matt Davies-Adams. New episode of which is currently out, relating to the Nuno Ange switchover, is there?
4 hours worth of stuff. We streamed live until 1 a.m. Because who sacks their manager at 12:15? So we streamed till 1 a.m. and then there's a Spurs fan and a Celtic fan on him. There's a couple of guests in Adam Summerton and Seb Hutchinson from the commentary world, ex-players. In Gary Birtles and stuff like that. There's a bit of everything. There's 4 hours worth for Forest fans to get their teeth into, certainly.
Celtic supporter no doubt told Matt about the extraordinary success. In fact, pretty much any supporter that you go, Matt Davis, just mentioning supporters of Ange Postecoglou's former clubs, I think pretty much everywhere he's been, with the exception of arguably his last last stint, the Spurs year, but there's the Europa League, but also 17th. But before that, though, wildly successful at Celtic. Prior to that, took Yokohama Flugel Marinos to their first J-League title in 15 years. Took Australia prior to that to the 2014 FIFA World Cup and qualified them for the next one too. So I don't know. As for a Forest perspective, what do you think, Benji?
I think it could work. I think you mentioned that I'm sort of supportive of Marianakis.
Yes.
I guess what I sort of begrudgingly respect is that he keeps doing things that people think are mad and they work. You know, when he got rid of Cooper, everyone thought he was mad. When he hired Nuno, everyone thought he was mad. This sort of crazily hyperactive transfer strategy of, you know, bringing in 30 and sending out 20, like everyone thought that was crazy. Well, now Chelsea are doing it every summer. So I just think maybe Marianakis needs the benefit of the doubt on this.
Right.
And the other thing as well that I think is so impressive this summer, how they held on to Morgan Gibbs-White. You know, as a supporter of a smaller side, now I'm not saying Forest are smaller, they're much historically bigger than West Ham, but we've been, we've not been amazingly successful in recent years. West Ham is just a given that you're going to sell your best players. That's how it works. And this summer, Marianakis said no. So yeah, I'm sort of supportive of his actions of late, and therefore I really hope that Ange works. And I mean, it's a sort of shock therapy to some extent. If he wants to change it, throw in an Ange. Let's see.
You last season said you'd like to see Ange at West Ham.
Yeah, just to sort of feel something. You know, it's like it's very different at Forest because they've got a working formula. West Ham haven't had one of those for a while, so therefore you'd obviously take an Ange. So I understand.
You're saying if it doesn't work, throw in an
dissonance.
Ange. But Forest was very much it's not broken, don't fix it, no?
Okay, fair point. But I think Marianakis wants to keep that onward momentum, right? They have been on an upward trajectory. He will probably see missing out on the Champions League last year as a failure, even though all of us know that it was an amazing success. But he wants, he is sort of, I think, trying to change and adapt and evolve at a point at which they've got, they're on the up. And not many owners do that. Ours certainly haven't.
There's examples of other clubs doing this and doing it well. I mean, Southampton got rid of Nigel Adkins and their fans were going to protest and brought in Pochettino and then went to the next level. So I think Benji's right. I think you can argue that the last month or so of last season, Forest had been found out in the way that they were playing. And as Matt said, they have played a little bit differently this season. And you can also point out the fact that Ange's big problem at Spurs last year was he ran out of players. Now, Forest, one of their main benefits is
They buy 10 more.
they don't run out of players.
Yeah.
So I think that will help him. And it's good to have him back in the Premier League. You know, we probably just need a Mourinho back and we've got the full set of characters.
Yeah, I agree with the boys. I think Marianakis has probably done the right thing here. You have to evolve. Look at what happened to Leicester after they won the Premier League title. They weren't the same team again, trying to play similar brand of football. I think you do have to evolve, and they're going to be playing in Europe as well this season, where you can't just play on the counter attack all the time. Premier League opponents have definitely started to suss them out and realised that they didn't want the ball, so let them have it a little bit more. So yeah, I think he was right to look for a change of direction actually after that tail off, and I think it would have come into his head towards the end of last season when they did tail off really badly. So yeah, I think why not give it a go. Milenkovic, I think, is a player that might suffer, and which is a shame because he's formed a great partnership with Murillo. But if he's asking Milenkovic to squeeze up to the halfway line, I think he could be in trouble.
Do you think Ange Postecoglou is going to come in with that game plan, though?
Not Emirates, surely. I mean, I think it has to be a slowly one, doesn't it? Where he finds some kind of middle ground at first. Because if you suddenly come in and start telling Milenkovic, you need to squeeze up to the halfway line and leave all that space behind, it's going to confuse him. It's not something he's accustomed to or comfortable with. So I think it will have to take place over a period of weeks, I'd imagine, changing the style completely. But as Matt said, they've played proactively in the campaign so far. They've pressed quite a lot. So I think they'll do that at Arsenal to a degree this weekend. They'll be comfortable in possession at times as well. But if they go high line full Ange ball, they'll get beat heavily. So I don't even think Ange is that daft. And let's remember, Ange sacrificed his principles towards the end of last season very well in the Europa League to go on and win it. He went kind of polar opposite himself, didn't he? So he is prepared. more prepared than he cared to admit at times last season to alter his style.
No Saka, no Saliba, no points last time out for Arsenal, Adrian, at Anfield, but feeling positive about this one?
Yes and no. I mean, yeah, that game could have gone either way. Well, it could have been a draw. Arsenal, if he sticks that in the cop, it's a good result for Arsenal, that free kick. So they shouldn't be too downhearted. The issue Arsenal have had so far, this is in part down to the tricky fixtures, but Arsenal are not creating good quality chances. One big chance created across the 3 matches is the lowest of all the teams. Second lowest XG from open play. Arsenal have to kind of release that handbrake and really attack with a little bit of a lot more verve and unpredictability. And if they do that against Forest, they should have enough to win the game.
Wow, there was a player I saw on Tuesday doing just that, splitting the defence with incredible through balls, setting up the striker again and again for goals. Martin Odegaard?
Who's he?
Exactly. Who? So I don't know if you saw Norway's thumping of Moldova 11-1, but Odegaard looked at his best in that game, admittedly asterisk against Moldova.
Yeah, anyway, he's got a fresh trim, hasn't he? He's had a haircut, the floppy hair is gone, he's gone a little bit sort of cleaner, and yeah, hopefully it will just bring about sort of an upturn in form. What he had for Norway was runners. He had players ahead of him that were looking to make dynamic runs in behind defenders. And we know he's good enough to prize holes in any defence. So, yeah, it's a big few weeks, I think, for Odegaard, because Eze's joined. We think he'll start on the left. But if Martin has a dip and doesn't perform, then they've got Eze to slip into that 10 spot or Waneri. So, yeah, he needs to raise his game. But I'm confident he will.
Yeah, broadly speaking, Nuno's exit, largely self-inflicted because of the friction, as you say, Benji, not a performance related with the club, but personalities, the friction between him and Edu, Marianakis' new head of global football, and the beef over the transfers that have been Edu inspired, and also a slight fall off in Forest's results on field. It has to be said. Matt was talking about what fans of Celtic would make of Ange, or what recollections they have. I think if you go right back through his career, there's going to be positive reports from his references are going to be good. Got Australia to the World Cup, qualified them for 2 World Cups, got Celtic. Well, then he went to Japan and got Yokohama F. Marinos, their first J-League title in 15 years. And then he went to Celtic and got 5 trophies in 2 seasons. Spurs, yeah, mixed bag, the 17th place finish, but Europa League, right?
He always wins something in his second season.
Very nice. Harry Kane there, getting the ball rolling. Away in Belgrade as England beat Serbia 5-0 on Tuesday. A game that when we were building up to it on Monday, people were saying, well, they'd be happy with a draw, probably be a 1-1. Talked about pedestrian England. Far from it in this one. Kane picking up his 74th England goal. We also saw debut England goals for Madueke, Konsa and Mark Gay. Declan Rice with 2 set-piece assists. Adrian, one of those rare occasions when just everything went right.
It was brilliant. It was a fun England performance, wasn't it? And I think there wasn't anything major tactically that Thomas Tuchel did. I don't think you could say this was a tactical masterclass. It was England did the basics much better. They ran harder. They ran in beyond. They ran with a purpose to try and hurt the opposition. So the player on the ball had better options. They were able to move it quicker, and yeah, it was just an intent about England. Just the little things. Everything they did was sharper, and because they're good players, they had too much for Serbia. So now I was thrilled with the performance, and yeah, hopefully it's the blueprint to follow. And the best thing about it is that some of the guys that are quite new stood up, didn't they? Like a Madueke, Elliot Anderson, one or two of the others as well. But those 2 really stand out. Now Tuchel knows he can trust them, because that was a big game. difficult environment. He now knows he can trust those two, and that's a big old plus, isn't it?
A massive win that came without some of England's biggest stars. And one of the nicest things, Benji, was that when they went 1-0 up, they kept on attacking for once.
Totally, and like Adrian was saying, the energy was maintained. And I think the thing that I loved about this performance is that it answered so many questions. Like, we've been trying to work out how do we speed this team up, and I think Elliot Anderson as a 6 is a massive part of that. His kind of energy and his vim. Who's England's best left flank? Again, I think we've answered that. It's the Geordie duo. It's Livramento, who I thought was really good up and down, and Gordon, who was aggressive and positive. Who's our second centre back alongside Guehi when Stones is injured, because he's always injured? Well, I think it's Ezri Konsa. They took it in turns to completely dominate Vlahovic. Who's the right back? Well, it's clearly Reece James now, who looked, again, really good, and Tuchel clearly likes him. And the rest of the team slightly picks itself. You've now actually got the slightly awkward question of, does Saka definitely get back in after that Madueke performance? The answer is probably yes, but what a nice problem to have. So for the first time in ages, England looked like the sum of their parts, which was so satisfying.
I mean, the one player that I don't think we've mentioned is Morgan Rogers as well, who was brilliant. He's got that kind of that strength centrally to sort of barge past players, and obviously set up Madueke's goal brilliantly.
Right, with the subtlest of flicks.
Brilliant player, and to the point of does Saka come back in? Does Jude Bellingham come back in?
Yeah, it's almost it's an emerita to some extent, but possibly.
I mean, just to put it into context as well.
What about Cole Palmer? Where's he going to fit?
Remember him? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, England do have strength in depth, as maybe they should, as the richest domestic football league in the world, etc. But to put it into context, that was England's biggest margin of victory in an away game against a team in the top 50 of FIFA rankings ever. Obviously, with the caveat that the FIFA rankings began in 1993.
Right.
But as you said, people weren't expecting a 5-0 away win, but there it was.
Adrian, it was a record-breakingly good performance then. What's next then on Thomas Tuchel's to-do list?
Yeah, that is a good question. It's difficult because the qualifiers are kind of almost dead rubbers, aren't they now? I think we've probably just touched on it there. You mentioned Jude Bellingham, Cole Palmer, Phil Foden's sort of out of the picture at the moment as well. Saka. What is he going to be brave enough to leave 1, 2 or 3 big dogs out of his starting 11 to maintain harmony in the team, to get the balance right? Because the balance was right in that game for all the reasons that we've just outlined. Is he going to do that, or is he going to try to crowbar some of these superstars back into the team at the risk of upsetting that harmony and balance? I'm not saying that those guys can't fit into the structure of what he wants, but 1 or 2 might have to be left out. And I think that's the challenge that he has to sort of approach head on. And personally, I would like to see him be brave and to do that, because it's always handy to have highly motivated, talented players on the bench ready to be unleashed, isn't it? So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to seeing in the next phase.
All right, another positive for the evening, the strength of England's set-piece coaching. Declan Rice, I mentioned, picking up 2 assists from the free kick and the corner, bringing a little bit of that Arsenal style.
Yeah, look, the set-piece coach at Arsenal deserves great credit for actually sticking Declan on them, because this wasn't something he's done all his career. They just sort of worked out, actually, he's the most reliable guy that we've got to take corners and free kicks. Remember, he's pretty big, Declan Rice. He could be quite a useful asset getting on the end of set pieces, but he's so good at taking them that he has to be on them now. And yeah, he's remarkably consistent. So yeah, I think the defending was really ropey, actually, from Serbia. I mean, to leave Harry Kane, of all people, just to meander into the box was crazy, really. But yeah, look, set pieces are going to be massive for England. We're good at them. Let's not be ashamed of it. And because in those tight games next summer at the World Cup, I'm pretty sure that we'll scramble our way through a round thanks to a scruffy set piece. So let's keep making them work.
I was also thrilled to see another question answered in Anthony Gordon's hair.
Oh yeah,
because I haven't seen him wear a headband like that before. And I thought it really worked. And I've always felt with Anthony Gordon, actually, that he's got difficult hair. Kind of goes in all sorts of different directions, mostly just upwards. And it's hard, and it's always hard to sort of manage something like that. But I think he's sort of really found it. And is it a coincidence that suddenly he looks natural and at home in the England side
Right.
with a headband.
You might think this is irrelevant, listener, but international managers have in the past instructed their players to get haircuts specifically for this reason. Argentina boss in Batistu's day forced him to get a haircut by not calling him up until he did, because he claimed that the amount of time that Gabriel spent flicking the hair out of his eyes, marginal gains,
There you go.
was detracting from his awareness, his ability to scan, perhaps. I was going to say impaired by his bangs, but they weren't bangs.
It's a
But
good
you take my
analysis,
point.
yeah.
And it is, and it ties in with a question that we were sent by John Hayes, who says, would it not be glorious if Erling Haaland played with his hair down all the time? The marauding Vikings, distinctive long locks, this is John again, freed and flowing whilst in full flight, lovely stuff, would be the perfect complement to, air quotes, our football. Haaland very much had his hair up, as is his wont. This Tuesday.
His second or third goal where he sort of beat a defender, beat the keeper, and then kind of scooped it into the top corner. That was absolutely delightful. And actually, this international window,
Yeah.
I think we've seen some of the best goals I can recall from an international break. To answer your question about what is on the to-do list, the FA have got to get some competitive fixtures in before the World Cup, because there's no one else that's going to challenge us.
Right.
you know.
England 7 points clear, yet to concede a goal.
Exactly. Yeah, the friendlies they arranged at the end of last season, on paper weren't hugely challenging. That said, Senegal beat us quite convincingly, but it was when everyone was knackered at the end of the season.
When's the World Cup played?
Well, good point. And actually, that is one of the caveats that I thought on Tuesday night, which was, this is what England look like 3 games into a season when they are on it, right? When everyone is kind of at their physical peak to some extent. They're yet to be exhausted. So a huge challenge is going to be, how do they transplant this to then in the summer?
Well, that's the problem, because they've moved the World Cup to the summer now, and it just doesn't work, does it?
Yeah, and of course we know how hot it's going to be in America next summer. So can we find a way to replicate that intensity, that dynamism that we showed in Serbia next summer? That's a question mark, isn't it, at the end of a grueling season? So, yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see how the team develops.
Listener Matt Hames wanted us to point out, or me specifically, that last time out when I mentioned Cristiano Ronaldo becoming top scorer in international football history, I was referring to, I said top scoring player, top scoring man, of course, because Canada's Christian Sinclair has scored 190 goals for that nation, which is a full 49 more than Ronaldo currently has, although he is catching up. He got another one the other day, a penalty in Portugal's 3-2 victory over Hungary. Imagine that didn't figure on your list of best goals. Maybe João Cancelo's late winner did, I don't know.
Well, actually, Ronaldo scored a goal in the game against Kazakhstan that was stunning, and that is on my list.
That's on your list. What else, Benji?
So, the Belgian game against Liechtenstein's De Kuyper's amazing header, sort of fish-angled, long-distance header, I thought was beautiful.
Fish-angled?
Well, he made himself into a sort of fish croissant shape whilst heading...
We've all eaten them, haven't we, listener?
There you go. Anyway, a beautiful Tielemans' first-time volley from a corner clearance in the same game. Matty Cash, I can't believe he didn't mention this on Monday. Matty Cash scored an absolute screamer to equalise for Poland away in Holland. I thought it was amazing. Strelic's second goal for Slovakia against Germany. He sits down Rudiger and puts in the top corner. Cucurella scored a sort of thunderbolt against Bulgaria. Yeah, in the Portugal game where Ronaldo scored a sort of long distance outside of the foot, João Felix scored this kind of extraordinary rainbow flick one-on-one finish. Like, look it up. KDB against Kazakhstan, postage stamp top corner. Damsgaard against Greece, he does a Zidane turn, then a sort of 25-yarder into the bottom corner. Like, just some beautiful, beautiful goals.
It was a good international break for so many people. Morocco qualified for the World Cup. We mentioned that in our last show. Tunisia now have joined them, thanks to a late win against Equatorial Guinea. Bolivia now got their foot in the door, pipping Venezuela to the 7th spot in CONMEBOL, and thus getting into the intercontinental playoff. Bolivia beat Brazil 1-0 at like 4,000 metres up in the air. But Jack Lang pointing out that that's six defeats now for Brazil in this qualifying campaign. If the World Cup hadn't been expanding, they would have been in real trouble of missing out, not even making a playoff. Anyway, it has been expanded. Bolivia in the playoff. Venezuela got beaten 6-3 by Colombia. And a quick mention for the fact that as part of our Totally Extra series, which comes out on a Saturday generally, we did a little reminisce about the good times and the dark times of that Colombia team from the 90s. Maybe you'd like to check that out, listener, if you are looking for something to listen to. Benji.
You mentioned Bolivia. They might be getting to their first final since 94.
Oh, yeah.
And Norway looks like they'll be getting to their first final since 98.
We're coming on to them next.
Well, I was just going to say,
Yeah.
maybe you can put this in afterwards. Can we just do a quick session of men sitting around naming footballers? Because that Bolivia team, Marco Echeverri, Erwin Sanchez, Carlos Truco, do you remember him? Amazing player. But the 98 Norway team, I mean, that 98 Norway team,
Right.
there was majority UK players. Espen Bardsen,
Yeah.
98, Henning Berg, Ronnie Johnson, Stig Inge Bjornaby, Dan Eggen that ended up, I think he was at Rangers.
Right.
Roger Nielsen from Sheffield United.
Right.
Oyvind Leonardsen, Tori Andre Flo, Solskjaer, Iverson, Harold Bratback.
That's incredible. And all from memory, Benji. Amazing. Tor-Kristian Karlsen, another man who can play this game, joins us on the line. Hey, Tor, how are you doing?
I'm good. Hello, studio. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I'm glad that Benji is talking up Norway there and keeping the memories fresh.
Well, fresh memories perhaps on the way, because having not made a World Cup since 1998, Norwegians now look nailed on to be at the tournament next summer, 6 points clear of Italy and Israel in their group with 3 games to play. Tor, are you packing for the World Cup?
I'm not counting any chickens yet, but people are indeed booking. I mean, even without knowing where the games might be played, but people are booking the transatlantic legs, and you should think that is academic now. We got home games against Estonia and Israel, and then doesn't really matter what happens in Italy on the last day.
Yeah, thanks to the incredible goal difference that Norway have. Goal difference that was boosted still further by Tuesday's performance against Moldova. 11 goals scored, turning it up to 11. What's the reaction been in Norway to that performance?
I think it's surreal more than anything. It was coming, actually. I mean, 11-1 might be pushing it, but we had beaten Moldova 5-0 away. We scored 4 against Israel away, in which we should have had more. I think the XG was nearly 5 in that game. So it's been coming, and the team has kind of gelled, is looking more balanced than it has done. There are some issues in defense still, goalkeeping. But, with the attacking options now available to Solbakken, I think we have every reason to be optimistic and to bury this national trauma that's been going on since 98.
Wow, a trauma indeed. You mentioned goalkeeping. The Norwegian keeper's role in the Moldova's lone goal in that 11-1 thrashing was an interesting bit of goalkeeping decision making. But at the other end, you had Erling Haaland scoring 5 goals and getting 2 assists as well. Ødegaard also scoring and providing assists for Erling Haaland, playing out of his skin. Shout out to Telo Asgard as well of Rangers, who was almost Asgard as Haaland. He got 4 goals despite only coming on in the 64th minute. So Haaland always gets all the headlines, and there's it's the goal scoring that grabs the attention here. But how rounded now is this Norway team, Tor? How much of an impact do you think they can make internationally next summer?
I've got to say that Moldova was no measure. The early goals didn't really help, and I think the key here though is that you've got the Haalands and you've got the Ødegaard. Ødegaard was absolutely unplayable. He was orchestrating, he was coming deep, he was taking people on, setting up 1-2s. He was the architect of everything. But I think another thing that should be mentioned is the intensity. Pressing was really good. And basically, Moldova just struggled to get the ball. They had no outlet up front. They were not able to keep the ball defensively. So it was just constant pressure for 90 minutes. Of course, Moldova is one, that's one thing. But obviously, we had beaten Italy as well 3-0 in June. So that was a test against, obviously, a world-class side. But the issues will remain in defense. The fullbacks are fine, but the centre-backs remained an issue, and the goalkeeper. And I think the trouble here is that Solbakken is struggling to find the right combination. I think he's been switching between, partnerships for the last couple of years. So that is the real test. And obviously the game management. I mean, against Moldova, you can just go all guns blazing. And however, against, if we do get to the World Cup, there will be obviously other challenges, and we wouldn't be expected to dominate possession or put the other teams under pressure to the extent that we did this week. So I think that's obviously something that Solbakken has to work out.
Okay, so 1 or 2 questions ahead of next summer's tournament, assuming you get there. But in the meantime, Norwegian fans of the men's game, because women's team has been an internationally dominant force through these lean years for the men. But for the men's team, finally, fans in dreamland.
Yeah, so there should be. I mean, there's been periods over the past kind of 20 years where we've thought, well, something is finally starting to happen. I think the difference now is that you obviously got the 2 world stars, but you also got you got a nice pool of players to pick from now. That wasn't the case. If you go back 10, 12 years, there would be half a dozen second Bundesliga players. There would be players scattered around in Hungary or Poland or whatever. But like Benji touched upon before I got on there, that the core of the team now are playing in respectable European clubs, and obviously getting the weekly top level football that they can bring on to the national team. But yeah, people are excited, and so they should be. I mean, and it's fun, The ironic thing is that, you talked about 90, 94, 98, and that was obviously, those sides were full of great players too, but the idea was mainly based on a solid defense, sitting back and breaking forward either through the long diagonals or counterattacks. But I think people see a lot more kind of potential for more in this current team.
Tor, thank you so much for joining us, and look forward to seeing Norway in action again soon.
I do as well, and thanks for having me on.
11-1, Duncan. When did you last see something like that?
Can't remember. It happens. I think it happens more in international football, doesn't it? You get I wouldn't go to the Cook Islands and ask them about heavy defeats. So
it's Premier League round 4 this weekend. What's the situation? Well, 3 teams are still unbeaten. That's Liverpool, Chelsea, and Crystal Palace. None of the promoted sides are in the bottom 3. Teams that are Fulham, Villa, and Wolves. Yikes. Premier League round 4 gets us underway with Arsenal, Forest Saturday lunchtime. Then you got, actually, that's one of 5. Forest against Saturday lunchtime. Premier League round 4 gets underway Saturday lunchtime with Arsenal against Forest, which is one of 5 Premier League games that are happening in the capital on Saturday. And that day there's also 4 EFL games as well. So that's madness. Fulham Leeds, Palace hosting Sunderland at 3. At tea time, West Ham Spurs and Brentford Chelsea at 8 p.m. Crikey. Also on Saturday, you got bitter bad boy South Coast rivals Bournemouth and Brighton facing off. There's Newcastle against bottom of the table Wolves and Everton Villa. Jack Grealish against his former side. Sunday, league leaders Liverpool are at Burnley, and at 4:30 it's the Manchester derby.
The last few Manchester derbies haven't been great watches. I think it was a goal a straw, the last one. Neither team.
A lot of people feeling that, there's a suggestion that this game could see 2 new goalkeepers, one for each side, Donnarumma and Lammers for United. And some feel that Donnarumma's arrival will spark a tactical revolution for City, with Pep telling his keeper to send it, tactically putting ketchup back on the canteen table, as it were. Do you see that happening?
Yeah, they do it at times with Edison, don't they? They've scored a number of goals where they've gone long to Haaland, and they've shown good movement with Marmoush and Haaland to sort of get in behind.
Right.
But you've got to make that, to pull that off, you've got to lure the other team forward and into thinking that you're going to play out from the back. And I don't know how many teams will buy that Donnarumma will do that, because it's not something he's hugely comfortable with. I'd stick both keepers straight in, by the way. I think, Donnarumma hasn't been signed to be back up to James Trafford, has he? He's going to go straight into the team, surely. And Lammens has to play. Don't worry that it's a Manchester derby. Bayern Deer has been a total liability on crosses, hasn't he? He just looks so ill at ease. I just think, why not just drop him in and see how he handles it? Being Manchester United goalkeeper comes with massive pressure, whether you're playing City, whether you're playing Burnley. It really does. So stick both straight in, I reckon, and let's see what falls. Can't predict this game, really, can you? Because neither team is particularly convincing.
All right, City lost at Brighton last time out. Man United beat Burnley, but only just and right at the death. They'll be approaching this game without Matheus Cunha, who came off injured in the game against Burnley and missed out on Brazil during the international break. Duncan?
I mean, there is a precedent for Pep chucking a new keeper into the Manchester derby. Did it in 2016 with Claudio Bravo, which obviously was when he was trying to get rid of goalkeepers that could kick the ball long, and Joe Hart. So, and Bravo did make a bit of an error in that one. And obviously it wasn't his debut, but Taibi obviously had a pretty bad performance. I mean, I think Manchester's relationship with goalkeepers for both clubs, they're either like incredibly good or riddled with quite a lot of errors.
So much pressure. Benji, are you going to pick a fixture that you'll be going along to Saturday tea times? West Ham, Tottenham. Two teams that reversed their fortunes on match day 3. Spurs got beaten at home by Bournemouth, while West Ham, as we mentioned before, went to Forest and beat them 3-0. Was that a blip, do you think, Benji?
Well, let's see. There were a lot of reasons to be cheerful. He actually pragmatically, unamarinishly changed his formation. He went 4 at the back. Kyle Walker-Peters came in. Mateus Fernandes came in from Southampton. These are both vulture list players from last year. Do you remember we talked about players that smart Premier League sides should pluck from the relegated sides? That was 2 of them, and they actually have made a difference. So yeah, let's see. Although we were doing pretty poorly, and then randomly won away at Arsenal last year, and then went back to being poor. So let's see.
Okay, your previous home game for West Ham was a 5-1 defeat against Chelsea. Just on the subject of that Forest game, one of the other players coming in midway through the match was Crescencio Somerville, and how exciting he looks.
Remember him? Yeah, it made a real difference. I think that kind of dynamism and that willingness to move quickly and run at players, we're talking about it with Elliot Anderson, right? It can really set the tone for a team. And I think when he came off the bench, having him and Fernandes willing to really pick up the ball and go made a big difference. It's exactly what we've been missing. Okay. So let's see. Let's see
how Mo Kudus gets on in his return to the London Stadium, and also how Xavi Simons and Randall Kolomoani, 2 of the big names in the big transfer window for Spurs, how they fare if they make their Tottenham debuts. Very good. That game, as mentioned, is Saturday at 5:30. Duncan, have you got a game that isn't one of those that you're excited about?
Everton, Aston Villa for me. Everton, often when teams move to new stadiums, it can be a bit of a slow start, or they're just angry that it's a former municipal athletic stadium turned into a football ground. Sorry, Benji, sorry. But the vibes are good at Everton. They're looking to win 4 in a row this season, and the contrast with Villa is huge. Villa, the only team in the top 7 divisions in England yet to score a goal.
Wow.
2 new players, though, that I'm excited about seeing is maybe Dibbling getting his first minutes for Everton. They've now got this kind of potential triple threat of Ndiaye, Grealish and Dibbling, which is lovely to think of. And I think Harvey Elliott's a great signing for Villa. I think he goes straight into their team, and I think he improves it.
All right. Jack Grealish against Villa, looking to register 2 assists in a match for the 3rd game in a row. And he'll be keen to make an impact on this. He's not the only one who's been benefiting from his arrival at Everton. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall has already played more Premier League minutes for the Toffees this season than he did for Chelsea in the whole of last season, and is also the top English chance creator in the Premier League so far this campaign. So Everton in cracking form. They're at the Hill Dickinson Stadium hosting Aston Villa. Also coming up this weekend, Burnley hosting Liverpool. This is Scott Parker's first game against Liverpool since when. He was in charge of Bournemouth. They went to Anfield in August 2022. They lost 9-0. He was subsequently not manager of Bournemouth.
Yeah, he gave one of the most kind of morose post-match interviews there, and sort of didn't just throw the players under the bus, threw the bus under the bus. And,
Is that when he got transposed over the Streets music?
Yeah.
Indeed. So a Liverpool team which could, of course, be unleashing the most expensive player in British football history, Alexander Isak. They were top of the league without him, 3 wins out of 3. Adrian, any chance that he's going to Asprilla to Newcastle it up for them?
I don't know. I mean, look, I don't think he's going to start, is he, in this game? I mean, would you chuck him straight in? I don't think so. And I'm fascinated to see what's going to happen because Ekitike, although he was quiet against Arsenal, has looked really sharp. Cody Gakpo looks in great nick. Surely you're not going to leave out Mo Salah. So, yeah, he's going to upset somebody sooner or later by sticking Isak in. But, yeah, this is going to be... I mean, if you're Scott Parker, I mean, his team aren't exactly full of goals anyway, or goal threats. You've got to go defensive. I mean, how defensive do you think he'll go? But in light of the fact that last time he faced Liverpool, they shipped 9. I mean, this could be genuine sort of attack v defence training game territory, couldn't it? So, yeah, maybe not. This might not be the best watch.
If you're outside the UK, you can watch Fulham Leeds. Fulham possibly bringing out their brand new Brazilian winger, Kevin, who they picked up from Shakhtar.
We need to talk about him.
Nice.
It's so nice to see a single English named Brazilian come from Shakhtar. That just feels right, doesn't it?
Bournemouth and Brighton both won impressively last time out. They're going to be facing each other at the Vitality. That's Saturday, 3 o'clock as well, as is Crystal Palace against Sunderland. Late news has been recorded is that Chelsea, in the run-up to this game, have been hit by 74 charges of wrongdoing relating to transfers by the FA. No doubt in our next show, we'll be looking into the implications of all of that. For now, they lie second in the Premier League, 2 points behind Liverpool. Curiously, they've only won 1 of their last 7 meetings with Brentford. But then again, that's a club that has changed so very much over the summer.
We should point out that Bernardo Cueva, the former Brentford set-piece man, is now operating at Chelsea and didn't make a brilliant start last season, but Chelsea have already scored 4 goals from corners. There's a really good piece by Tom Harris on The Athletic about the menace that Cucurella is causing at the near post, darting around like a crazed spaniel, and then behind him goals emerge.
Could be seeing that at the G-Tech Saturday evening. Of course, Chelsea have a trip to Bayern on Wednesday in the Champions League in what looks like a really, really, really saucy debut set of games for the English sides in the league phase. They're going to be at Bayern. Man City welcome Napoli. KDB.
We need to talk about Kevin, part 2.
Part 2. Liverpool host Atletico Madrid, who have yet to win a game over in La Liga. Spurs take on Villarreal. And Arsenal are away to Athletic Club in Bilbao. Then, of course, there's Newcastle, who on Saturday face Wolves. We might see Visser and Voltemada against Wolves, and quite possibly a W as well for the home side. And then they follow that with Barcelona. Barcelona at St James's Park on Thursday.
You were casting aspersions on Tino Asprilla a few minutes ago.
I wasn't.
I mean,
I was referencing the popular belief. Yeah. If you like the sound of all of those Champions League fixtures, we'll have a slightly earlier than usual Totally Football Show European edition out Tuesday morning, previewing all the Champions League games. Not all of them. Some of them.
Quite a lot.
And then, actually, next week's Totally Extra will move from its Saturday slot and park itself on Wednesday morning to cover what happens on Tuesday. Meantime, before any of that, there is another Totally Extra that we've already recorded, Duncan.
Yes.
With Michael Cox and Pedro Pinto. And we're talking about a Portuguese team from the early noughties who were really, really successful briefly. But nobody remembers them or their manager.
Yeah, low-key sort of coach guy, did a lot of his work on the training pitch and just left
Retired, opened a bookshop.
Yeah.
That's it, though, for today's show. Many, many thanks for your patience. It was a long one. Adrian, thank you so much. Hope you enjoy yourself this weekend.
Pleasure.
Many thanks to you and to Benji as well, and to Jake and producer Charlie in the booth. Listener, have a great weekend. We'll be back Sunday night and live on YouTube as well with our reaction to round 4. Do hope you'll be joining us soon. For now, from all of us here, it's goodbye. The Totally Football Show podcast is available 3 times a week, bringing you all the football news you could reasonably be expected to care about. We've got views, we've got stats, we've got analysis, we've got some of the best football writers around, and the whole thing is absolutely free. So have a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or all the usual places by clicking on the link below.